Midweek edition of the Sideline Guys here on sidelineguys.recordernews.com. Along with Mark Robarge, I'm Adam Schinder. We're a couple days into the sectional basketball playoffs. Already, all of our local girls teams have been eliminated, unfortunately, but 5 boys teams still remain, including, surprisingly, and you were there Tuesday night, the Amsterdam boys pulled the upset over Albany Academy.
This has been the game that Joe Agresta has been saying that he could see his team playing, and they indeed played it the other night. They looked good on offense, not great, but they looked awesome on defense. They really showed a lot more tenacity out on the floor. Albany Academy, to their detriment, I guess, looked like they had the attitude that they just had to throw the ball out on the floor to win the game. But Amsterdam came out, they scrapped hard. Dondre Edgerton just had an incredible night, just controlled the inside. It was just an amazing game, just a good night for Amsterdam. Unfortunately, now they come back to earth when they play Saturday against Albany High. That could be interesting.
Yeah, Albany High has not been a good matchup for this team over the last couple of years. This is a team that really wants to get on and run. They want to pressure the ball. They've played twice this year. Albany won by 31 at home, 34 in Amsterdam late in the season. What Amsterdam's got to do, they've got to kind of brew up that perfect upset formula. They've got to play defense. They've got to make all their free throws. And somebody, either Antonio Johnson or Tyler Major, is going to have to hit a lot of three-pointers.
And the other problem is that while Albany Academy didn't know what to expect from Amsterdam, Albany has seen Amsterdam when it was playing at its best. One of the games that I covered earlier in the year, Amsterdam put on about a quarter and a half of really good basketball, stayed with Albany before collapsing in one of those famous swoons that Joe Agresta has talked about during the season. So Albany knows what this team is capable of, and I think that'll make a big difference as well.
Yeah, and the Falcons are coming in hot as well. They scored 93 points in their opening round win over Guilderland. If Amsterdam wants to win, this game's got to be in the 60s or less.
All right, let's switch out to double Bs. Another one, to me, was a surprise that they advanced. I know to Adam and to Paul Antonelli, our sports editor. Broughton Perth moves on in impressive fashion, I must say. And to my credit, they actually did do what I said they had to do to win, getting something out of their big guys, Mittler and Gage. Now they take on Cairo Durham at Guilderland in their quarterfinal game on Saturday, and I actually think they're going to have an easier time with Cairo Durham.
Yeah, Cairo Durham is not a team that scores as much as Hudson does, and BP's biggest weakness this season has been on the defensive end. This is not going to be 76-65 like Wednesday night's game was. This will be lower scoring, but again, looking at Cairo Durham's roster, there's a lot of guys 6'1", 6'2". If they can get aggressive and get those guys going inside, that's going to open things up for Tyler Wood, who has scored double figures in 18 out of 19 games this season, and RJ Pidgeotto. Both guys have knocked down more than 53 pointers. BP can win this game and get to the Glens Falls Civic Center again.
Yep, you got me. I'm a believer now. I've got them going to the Civic Center as well. Stepping down one more notch, Class B, Fonda Fultonville. I expected them to play good defense, but holding Tamarack to 19 points, that's just impressive.
Yeah, very, very evidently that the first full season in the Colonial Council has paid off in that opening round of sectionals, a 49-point win over Tamarack. They're moving on to face a Corinth team that came off a win over Greenville. This is probably a pretty even matchup. These 4-5 games, Fonda's found themselves in a lot of these situations in recent years. I like the Braves here just because of the way they're playing defense. You hold a team to 19 points. They're not going to hold Corinth to 19 points, but I see them playing. They've played defense all through sectionals the last few years. I see them moving on again.
Well, getting back to your Colonial Council thing that you mentioned before, and we've talked about this quite a few times over the last few months, the idea of stepping up from WAC play to the Colonial Council play was supposed to show up in sectionals, and I think it'll show up here as well because you've got a Corinth team that is another one of those North Country teams that plays a schedule pretty much dominated by C's and D's, while you've got Fonda, who has played some pretty good quality B's, even a couple of A teams, and I think that's going to make a big difference here as well. I think the quality of their defense, the quality of the competition they're up against, I've got their ticket punched to the Civic Center as well.
And it's been a very familiar place for Fonda. They've been there several years in a row. Obviously won the section last year. And then we are guaranteed to have at least one team in the Civic Center because in Class C, the 2-7 quarterfinal matchup, Saturday, 6 o'clock, Saratoga Springs, Fort Plain, Mayfield, Chapter 3.
This should be fun. Craig Phillips talking to him last night after they pretty much easily dispatched of Hadley Luzerne said, look, there's no secrets here. He's talking about himself and Pete Updike. They're not going to change anything up here. They both know what the other team is going to do. It's just going to be a question of who executes better. It should be a fun game. And even though Fort Plain pretty easily, and I don't want to say they ran away with the other 2 games during the season, but they weren't too threatened in either of these games. Mayfield has got the ability, if they can get on an offensive roll, they can cause problems with that Fort Plain defense. Especially right now, you've got that Fort Plain backcourt that's sick right now with Brent Baker and
Harold Detmer.
Thank you. They looked a little slow last night. Offensively, pretty sloppy as well. Craig Phillips admitted, he says, look, yeah, we didn't have our A game, but he said we didn't need our A game this night. We want to make sure we have the A game on Saturday night. And quite honestly, they are going to need it if they're going to beat Mayfield, because Mayfield will be ready for them. No question about it.
Yeah, it's kind of that old NFL adage. Beating a team 3 times in one season is incredibly, incredibly difficult. I think when you look at it, the difference maker for Fort Plain, and I think it will be throughout the sectional playoffs, is their back line with Jack Ray and Ashton Parker, who has really turned into a fantastic rebounder and shot blocker.
Absolutely. I was joking with him last night after the game. It looks, I swear that at the beginning of the season, he and Jack Ray were about the same height. It looks like Ashton's grown 2 or 3 inches and now towers everybody, and he's playing that way. He's playing very aggressively on the boards. He's trying to make his own shots inside. It's as if everything else around him is rubbed off and given him the confidence to play at a much higher level.
And defensively, he's a soccer goalie, and you can see that when he plays.
Absolutely.
He's long, and he gets up, and he covers a lot of ground. I think this is a game where Fort Plain, I think it's, again, they're going to be challenged. These 2 teams know each other very well, but I think the Hilltoppers move on, and they get back to the Civic Center.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. Now, let's switch gears, because you're going to be performing kind of double duty this weekend.
Yeah, we're going to have some wall-to-wall coverage starting tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m.
Weather permitting.
They'll be going no matter
That's
what.
True.
They've had weather problems the last few years, but the New York State Public High School Athletic Association Wrestling Championships at the Times Union Center in Albany. Brandon Lappy, he's the 4th seed at 103 pounds. He's a freshman. He already went to states last year at 96 pounds as an 8th grader. We'll have updates throughout the day, both on sidelineguys.recordernews.com and on Twitter, twitter.com/recorder_sports. Wall-to-wall coverage, and Brandon is going in a very tough 103-pound Division I bracket, but he placed 4th at the very prestigious Eastern States Classic earlier this year. He can definitely make a run deep into this tournament.
No, I definitely think, no doubt, he makes it through the first day. He definitely makes it to Saturday. The question is how far he gets once he gets in there with the final four wrestlers.
Yeah, and the Final Four, it's a tough draw because he's on the top half of the bracket. His potential semifinal opponent is the number 1 seed, Mark Raghunanan. I believe it's pronounced, from Long Beach down on Long Island. It's a very, very tough field, especially considering he's a freshman. And a lot of these 103-pounders are 10th, 11th, even 12th graders who have managed to keep their weight down for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, look, even if he were to be knocked out early in this thing, it's still a tremendous accomplishment for a freshman to have competed in the state tournament 2 years in a row. We don't expect that to happen. Like I said, I expect him to make it to the second day, and it's a wonderful stepping stone to a 10th grade year where the sky is the limit. I could see him easily being a 3-time state champion.
And you look at him right now, he's 3 wins away from 50 for a season, which is very, very impressive. And considering even if he gets knocked out, he'll go through the wrestlebacks, 50 is very attainable for him this year. And it's a match. I'm not sure any Amsterdam wrestlers ever hit it before.
That's a good question. Something we'll have to check out for you. Unfortunately, 2 other local wrestlers did not make the draw. Franklin from Fountain of Fultonville and Kenny Krause from Canterbury Fort Plain. They both came up short in the wild card seedings, coming up as alternates. Great seasons. Unfortunately, they had to come to an end just 1 step short.
And next weekend, just to mention, Lucas Santiago will be swimming the 100 freestyle for Amsterdam down at the state meet on Long Island. But we'll talk a little bit more about that, plus the fallout from this weekend next week. Until then, for Mark, I'm Adam, and we'll see you next time at sidelineguys.recordernews.com.